All right, let's talk about a really fundamental shift happening in project management. We're moving away from these super rigid step-by-step processes to something a lot more flexible and, honestly, a lot more powerful. What's being called the project management mindset.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Is your rulebook actually holding you and your projects back? Because in the world we're working in now, where everything's complex and changing by the minute, just following a script someone wrote ages ago, it's often just not going to cut it.
And this is the best way to think about it. We're trading in our maps for compasses. See, a map is fantastic if you know exactly where you're going and the terrain never ever changes. It tells you every single turn to take. But modern projects, we're often heading into totally new territory. For that, you don't need a map. You need a compass. You need a set of guiding principles that help you find your way, no matter what surprises the landscape throws at you.
And that's the whole idea behind this new standard for project management. It's not a rulebook full of do's and don'ts, no. It's a framework built on principles. The goal is to shape how you think, your mindset, so you can make the right call in any situation, instead of just prescribing your every action. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with this fundamental shift. Then, we'll dive into the 3 key parts of this mindset: being proactive, taking ownership, and staying value-driven. And to wrap it all up, we'll see how this big picture thinking connects to the actual nuts and bolts work of managing a project.
Okay, so let's get into this fundamental shift. And I really want to stress, this isn't about just swapping out one process for another. This is about rewiring our brains, adopting a whole new way of thinking about the work we do.
And this slide lays it out perfectly. Think of it like a building. The foundation, the solid ground we're building on, is the mindset itself. Holding it all up are 3 main pillars: being proactive, having ownership, and being value-driven. And then, those pillars support our actions through 6 core principles, which we're going to explore right now.
First up, let's talk about the proactive mindset. This is all about getting ahead of the curve. It's about anticipating what's coming, not just reacting to it, and making sure quality is baked into every single thing you do right from the start.
And the first principle here is to adopt a holistic view. What does that really mean? It means you stop seeing your project as a checklist of separate tasks. Instead, you see it as a living, breathing system where every single piece affects everything else, from the first brainstorm to the final handshake.
So, what does a holistic view look like in the real world? Well, it means making sure your project actually fits with the company's bigger goals. It means when you make a decision, you're thinking about how it ripples out and affects everyone. It means amazing communication and, of course, getting out in front of risks before they become problems.
Check out this great example. There was an NGO running a public health project. By thinking holistically, by looking at the bigger picture, they realized their work overlapped with a big government initiative. Now, they had to adapt their plan, sure, but because they did, they landed a grant and ended up making a way bigger impact than they ever could have on their own.
All right, the second proactive principle: embed quality. This is huge. We're not talking about a quality check at the very end when it's too late. No. This is about building quality into every step, every process, every single thing you deliver, so you're consistently hitting your targets.
Think about this. A shipping company's moving into a new country. They could have just checked the box on the minimum government rules, but they didn't. They embedded quality. They dug deeper and found out their most important customers had even higher standards, so they aimed for that higher bar. The result? They didn't just comply, they wowed their customers and had a much stronger launch.
Okay, so we have the proactive mindset. Let's build on that with our second dimension, the ownership mindset. This is all about leadership, team culture, accountability, and empowering the people you work with.
And what's really key here is that accountable leadership is not about your job title. It's about how you act. It's about owning the outcome, leading with integrity, and building a culture where everyone feels that same sense of responsibility.
So, picture this: a huge government mega project, tons of different vendors, and a fight breaks out over scheduling. The old school way? You just pull out the contracts and tell people what to do. But a leader with an ownership mindset did something different. They got all the vendors in a room to talk it out and find a solution together. Not only did it fix the problem, it actually built trust and made everyone more productive. And that flows right into our next principle, building an empowered culture. This is about creating that environment of trust, where your team feels safe to speak up, to share ideas, to collaborate without being asked, and to really pull together towards that one shared goal.
And that brings us to our third and final dimension, the value-driven mindset. This is where it all comes together, because it focuses on the whole point of a project in the first place, delivering real, meaningful value and doing it in a responsible way.
This principle is all about constantly asking one simple question: are we still delivering value? Because, let's be honest, finishing on time and under budget is great, but if the project doesn't actually deliver the value it was supposed to, did it really succeed? True success is all about the impact you make.
Here's a classic example. A company's rolling out a new software system internally. They could have just crammed it full of a million complex features, but they took a value-driven approach. They realized the company culture was all about simplicity, so they focused on making it super easy to use to get people to actually adopt it. And by doing that, they created way more value than a complicated system that nobody used ever would have.
Being value-driven also means thinking about sustainability. This pyramid shows you the playbook. The absolute best thing you can do is avoid any negative impacts, social, environmental, you name it. If you can't avoid them, your next job is to minimize them. Can't do that? Then you restore, and only as a last resort, you compensate. See the pattern? The goal is always to be proactive, not just cleaning up messes later.
All right, so let's bring this all down to earth. This all sounds great, this high-level mindset stuff, right? But how does it actually change what you do day to day? How does the mindset meet the mechanics?
Well, the answer is in something called performance domains. Just think of these as the nuts and bolts of project management, the actual work areas. We're talking about managing the scope, the schedule, the risks, the money, the stakeholders, all that good stuff. These domains are where you put the principles we've been talking about into practice.
And this table just shows that connection so clearly. You can see that a principle like adopt a holistic view is fundamental. It touches absolutely everything. But then others, like being an accountable leader, have super strong ties to specific areas, like how you handle governance, your stakeholders, and risk. The mindset isn't separate from the work. It guides the work.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one to take with you. The whole shift we've been talking about is about moving beyond just being a task manager, just checking boxes. It's about stepping up to lead with a mindset that's proactive, that takes ownership, and that is obsessed with delivering real, sustainable value. So the question for you is, which one are you doing?